My apologies, everybody. I lost internet for a minute.
No, you didn't miss anything, Hank.
All righty. Let's proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Shaler, isn't it true that most of your viewers link through your Twitter account? Most of your subscribers come from your Twitter account?
Objection lacks foundation.
Not sure whether he knows. He might know, but it's not clear if he does. So let's establish whether he knows and how.
Judge, that was also compound.
I'll sustain that.
Okay. Isn't it true, Mr. Saylor, that you're aware that most of your subscribers come through Twitter?
I'm not aware of that. I mean, I'm not aware of that 100%, no.
Okay. Do you recall your testimony? I'm going to take you to page 185, lines 6 through 14. Do you recall testifying that they mostly come through Twitter?
I do, and I think that maybe most of them do come from Twitter. I'm just saying I don't know definitively if that's the truth. If that's the case.
Okay, and speaking of, I don't want you to put this up, Mr. Weisrod, but 609 is your dashboard that, I'm sorry, 902 is your dashboard that tells how your subscribers come to you. And is that agreed? And that's an agreed exhibit. I've moved for admission.
No objection, Your Honor.
Objection.
And you're not going to dispute that most of your subscribers come through Twitter, right?
I think that's accurate.
Okay.
Hang on a second. 902 is admitted. All right, go ahead.
Let's go back to 897. Page is this the 90%? I'm gonna tab this page. Hang on just a second. Oh, here it is. It's 1264. So Mr. Velaquette first starts with that emoji of the brain, correct? Can you see this? I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Somebody has what sounds like static from some sort of electrical device in the background. So if whoever is in a room with that noise, if you could mute your microphone, please. All right, Ms. Burgess, what is your question about this exhibit? It's already in evidence and it speaks for itself. What's your question about it?
It's true. Is it true that you provided 90% of Flow Sports successful content staples when you were there?
That's impossible to know. I think, this is a conversation. It's a little hyperbolic. I guess what I'm saying is I did good work for them. I did a lot of good work there.
And that was, you were providing content, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying that your exit and taking that content to Rockfin was going to harm Flow Sports.
No.
Well, you said because they're not going to have your successful content staples, now they will languish and won't grow, right?
Yes.
And when you're talking about the first big contract they lose, you mean event or live streaming that they lose to Rockfin, correct?
No.
Or
No.
what was the contract that they were going to lose?
I don't know what contract they're going to lose, but they have, you know, they have a couple big contracts. They lose one, they're in trouble. I mean, that's a fact of the matter.
What kind of contracts?
I mean, if they lost US,
Contracts for, I'm sorry, say that again.
I mean, if Flow Wrestling lost USA Wrestling's contract, they'd be hurt bad.
Okay, is
And that
Rockfin
has nothing to
targeting?
do with me.
I didn't hear the last thing you said, Mr. Saylor. I heard hurt bad. I didn't hear what you said after that.
I said there's several contracts that are big contracts, and if Flow lost one of them, they would be in serious peril, and that has nothing to do with me. That's just the nature of their inventory.
And when you're talking about contracts, you mean contracts to air live events, right?
Yes, that's their core business model.
Like USAW, right?
Yes.
Do you know if Rockfin has targeted USAW?
No idea.
Did you know that Rockfin was trying to get them as a channel on Rockfin?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
You have no idea? Was that the answer? I'm sorry. Was that the answer?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
I'm trying to just hear what the answer was. I didn't hear it.
I didn't provide an answer because the question was objected to.
Oh,
Let's
I'm
move
sorry. I
on.
meant the objection was asked and answered. I didn't.
He
hear
has
the-
told you that he has no idea. Now let's move on.
Okay. The next exhibit is not agreed. It's objected to. This is 289. So don't put that up. But Mr. Saylor, can you identify this as your Facebook page for Mat Scouts?
I have to pull it up.
Okay,
Give me one
please. do.
289, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That appears to be some page in my Nat Scouts Facebook thing.
Okay, I'd move for admission of 289.
Your Honor, we object on grounds of relevance. This is again one of those padded exhibits. If there's something specific, we would certainly consider that, but
I don't
right
know
now it
what
just
a
seems.
padded exhibit is, Mr. Sotero. So just your legal objection, I understand it to be relevance, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor, relevance.
All right, I'm gonna have to look at 289 to evaluate that. Is it in the box folder?
It should be, Judge, in F289.
Your Honor, Robin joins us the objection. It's a 85-page exhibit. Not sure the relevance.
I'm not gonna be able to look at 85 pages in the next few minutes, so you do
It's
that. I'll take a look at it
it's
over the
his
lunch
life.
break. I'll take a look at it over the lunch break and let you know my ruling on it. Let's move to something else.
Mr. Saylor, isn't it true that your current Facebook page still has episodes of Greatest Mind in Wrestling on it?
I don't know.
I'm sorry?
I don't know. Perhaps those episodes were recorded before the temporary injunction, and if they were posted to Facebook, they were posted before the temporary injunction, so it's
Have you
possible.
done anything? I'm
Possible.
sorry, have you done anything? I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. Have you done anything to take those down, Mr. Saylor?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second, Ms. Burgess.
Have you done anything to take those off your Facebook page?
No, I didn't know that I was required or requested to do so.
Now, let's, we don't have an exhibit up, right? Mr. Saylor, let's go to 160.
$160.
It's your, and it will be put up. It's your PIIA.
Yes.
Okay, can we go to 3.1 on the next page, Mr. Weisrott? So in 2014, you acknowledged and agreed that Flow Sports was engaged in providing products and services in the sports video industry as its business, correct?
Your Honor, I believe that this is just asking what the document says, which it speaks for itself.
It does, but you can certainly ask him about it, something other than for him to read it to us as we've been over.
That you acknowledged and agreed that what Flow Sports did was the products and services of the sports video industry, correct?
Yes.
And that's what you guys defined as the business of the company, right?
That's what I defined.
What the contract defines as the business of the company, right?
The contract says sports video industry. The contract says sports video industry.
Right. I mean, it says, I acknowledge and agree, that's you, that's what the company is doing. It is engaged in providing products and services in the sports video industry, right? That's what you call the business of the company?
Yeah.
Okay. And in August of 2014, that's when you signed it, right?
August. I don't know. I recall 2014.
Was there anything beyond the products and services that we had on that task list that you did at that time that you don't do now, that you didn't do at the end of your time?
Objection characterizes prior testimony.
Let me go to an exhibit and a better question. Let's go to 407A. Mr. Saylor, did you do all of these things at Flow Sports in 2014?
In 2014, did I make social media posts? Yes. Did I do technique videos? No. Did I do interviews? Yes. Did I do a podcast in 2014? No. Did I do written articles in 2014? Yes. Did I do rankings? Yes. Did I do recruiting stuff? Yes. Did I use monikers? No. Did I organize events in 2014? Yes.
Okay, and those were the services you were providing for Flow Sports at the time, right?
What I just said yes and no to were some of the content that I provided at Flow at that time.
Okay, and that's the services, is that different than the services you provided for Flow? Did you provide different services for Flow?
Huh?
Is that all the work you did for Flow?
No.
What are some other things that you did for Flow Sports?
In 2014, I managed the site.
Okay. Did you ever work in production of events?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of production?
One time. I mean, for all intents and purposes, no.
Okay. Your job was in content, right?
Yes.
And those were the services you were rendering for Flow Sports, correct? That's what you were doing for Flow Sports content. let's go back to 160 and go to page 3 to section B. Now, this section of your agreement, B1, doesn't even say business of the company, does it?
Objection asked and answered.
We have been
Document
over
speaks
this,
for itself.
excuse me, we have been over this, Ms. Burgess. Let's get a fresh question.
Is there any place in the world, Mr. Saylor, that has cellular data or an internet connection where you can't see Flow Sports?
How am I supposed to know that?
I
Oh,
don't know.
Mr. Saylor, here's the thing. If you don't know, I don't know is an acceptable answer. You don't get to ask Ms. Burgess a question, but you do get to tell us that you don't know if that's your answer. Do you know the answer to her question?
I do not know the answer to that question.
All right.
And do you know of any place where there's data service or cellular service or internet where Rockfin cannot be viewed?
I don't know.
And you agree that that Flow Sports paid for you to travel internationally, right?
Yes.
Let's go to paragraph 3D. How do you describe the customers of Flow Sports in your own words? This is the paragraph about it, but who are the customers?
Customers of Flow Sports. Oh, people that view content on one of their verticals.
Okay, so, and are customers of Rockfin people who view content on one of their channels?
Customers of Rockfin would be people. No, I would say there's a distinct difference.
Who are customers of Rockfin?
Customers at Rockfin are people that have signed up for Rockfin. Different than
Subscribers, right?
subscribers.
And certainly subscribers of Flow Sports would also be customers of Flow Sports, right?
They would, but not limited to not limited to subscribers.
Right, because some people view the content before you get behind the paywall, right?
No, because Flow Sports relies heavily on advertising.
Okay, I see what you're saying. They're looking for eyeballs even when they're not, when people aren't subscribers, right?
Well, they're looking for eyeballs when they are and are not subscribers, because there are ads up on free content and there is ads up on paid content. And at Rockfin, there's no advertising whatsoever.
Okay, and you're aware that ads are a very small part of Flow Sports' revenue model, right?
No, I don't know that.
It was when you left.
I don't know that. I don't know that at all.
Okay, you had access to Periscope when you left, right?
Yes.
And you were able to see how attributions were placed, correct?
Yes, but that, I mean, are we, yes, I did.
Okay, and we're gonna all agree that subscribers to Flow Sports would definitely be their customers, right?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Flow Sports subscribers would definitely be Flow Sports customers, right?
Your Honor, asked and answered. I think we just went over this.
Excuse me, is there any dispute about this?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I'm asking the lawyers. Is there any dispute about this?
I don't think so, Judge. I think you just answered the question before.
I also think it's calling for a legal conclusion from.
My question was, is there any dispute that a subscriber can be considered a customer? Can we all agree that that's the case and move on?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes,
Agreed. Move on.
Okay. And let's go to section on PDF 1. Actually, I'm sorry, PDF. Yeah, PDF 1 confidentiality. Mr. Saylor, you were given access to Periscope on an ongoing basis after you signed your agreement, right?
After I
I think
sent,
that my objection is mischaracterizes the evidence.
I'll ask you to rephrase that one, Ms. Burgess.
Okay. Mr. Saylor, you logged in to Periscope as late as November 3rd, 2019, after you already told Mr. Floriani you were going to go to Rockfin, right?
I don't know the timeline. I did log in. I did check on something on Periscope on November 3rd.
Okay. And the Periscope data is updated continuously, isn't it?
As far as I know.
Okay. And you had access to that well after you signed this agreement, right?
Yes, I signed that in 2014. I don't believe Periscope existed in 2014.
Okay. And I think that you've admitted in pleadings that you received valuable trade secrets from Flow Sports, right?
Objection.
I don't know what I testified to prior. I don't know what I testified
Hang
to.
on, Mr. Saylor, when you hear Ms. Klingsizen or Mr. Soltero urge an objection, I need you to stop your testimony until I can rule on their objection. But he's indicated he doesn't know the answer, so let's move on.
So are you disputing that you received confidential information from Flow Sports after 2014?
No, I'm not disputing that.
Let's go to, well, actually, you might be able to see this, but let's pop it out, the third-party information section at the bottom. As part of your agreement with Flow Sports, you agreed that you would not disclose other people's confidential information as well, right?
Yes.
And you got confidential information about athletes, didn't you?
I'm sorry, I missed the last.
For instance, you got information about the grades that athletes had, correct?
The grades?
Right. Like this athlete is not going to do well in college because he's not going to be able to play because he's got bad grades. Those were in some of your spreadsheets, right?
Absolutely not.
No? Okay. You had, we'll talk about that after the lunch break then. And what kind of third-party information were you holding?
What kind of third-party information was I holding? Holding where? I mean, broadly speaking, I don't know. Is there anything?
Let's go to PDF 4. Now, you agreed that when you left Flow Sports, you would return all of the documents that belong to Flow Sports to Flow Sports, right?
Yes.
Okay. And are you testifying that you did that?
Yes.
Are you aware that you produced back to us things from the Flow Sports G Suite?
I produced back to
You had exported things from the Flow Sports Google Drive and you produced those back in litigation because you had possession of them, correct?
minor. Yes, minor clarifier is that I never exported anything.
Now, when you got into your Google Drive at Flow Sports, sometimes you sent things from your Gmail, correct? Your personal Gmail instead of your Flow Sports account.
Are you asking if during the time I was employed at Flow, if I used my personal email?
Right. You sent things from your personal Gmail out of the Google Drive from Flow Sports, correct?
I don't know that I did that.
Let's go to F893.
I don't even know if that's possible.
Okay. Is this agreed? This is an agreed exhibit. I asked for admission of 893, Judge.
I don't have that on our list.
I don't have it on a list that y'all told us about, but let me look at it. I don't think it'll be a problem.
Sure, it's the PSU depth chart that's emailed out. May not-
No objection.
No objection.
So
Sorry.
on my list is marked as confidential, so I need to ask two questions. One is, if there's no, are you telling me you don't have any objection to the admission of plaintiffs 893 into evidence? Is that right?
That's right, Judge. We'd prefer that the second thing not be shown. I don't think it needs to be streamed, but the second page of that document.
That's fine with us, Judge.
All right, plaintiffs 893 is admitted, and I've now had a chance to at least pull up plaintiffs 289. So before we break, we'll need to talk about that one. But you can go ahead on this one for now.
And Judge, just so you know, on 289, while you're looking at that, I don't have any more questions about it right now. So it's just really,
I just want to tie up that loose end before the break. So we'll talk about it right before we break at 12:30, or a little bit before 12:30.
Okay, thank you. So now can we see, Mr. Weisbrot, can we see the first page of, what number is that? 893. And if you could pop out the small writing there. Okay, so this is when you worked at Flow Sports, right, Mr. Saylor?
425. I worked at Flow Sports at that time, yes.
Right, and you kept these depth charts about kind of the bench of different teams. You kept them on the Google Drive at Flow Sports, right?
Objection compound.
Sustained.
What is a depth chart, Mr. Saylor?
What question am I answering?
Just what is it?
A depth chart, it says that Mrs. Burgess is the starting quarterback, Willie Saylor is the backup quarterback, Carlos Otero is the starting running back, Kelly's the starting fullback. That's what, it's a depth chart.
Okay, does it also talk about people who are kind of still on the bench and could be coming up behind?
It's the roster.
Okay, well, the depth chart, you kept these depth charts and they're color coded, right?
I had lots of depth charts.
Right, okay. And you kept those on the Google Drive, right?
I kept
Judge, to the form is vague, which, vague.
I'll rephrase.
Overruled.
It's the
Keep them on
flow-
the Google Drive is the question, as I understood it. Is that, I don't
Yeah.
understand what's vague about that. Did you keep them on the Google Drive?
Your Honor, may I clarify my objection? Why it's
course.
vague?
Sure.
It's not clear whether she's talking about the Google Drive at Flow or his personal Google Drive, which are separate Google Drives. That's what's vague.
He can tell me if he doesn't understand the question. Mr. Saylor, do you need some clarification?
No, I don't need any clarification. The
All
answer,
right, and you may answer the question. Did you keep them on your Google Drive?
the answer is I had spreadsheets and all over the place, and it appears that this one here was on my personal drive.
And you kept these on your Flow Sports Google Drive as well, correct?
Well, you have to be specific.
You kept depth charts on your Flow Sports Google Drive, right?
There may have been some depth charts on the Flow Sports Google Drive.
Okay, and why is it that you think this one is from your personal Google Drive? Is it just because it came from your personal email?
That's correct.
But you could access your personal email from the Flow Sports Google Drive as well, right?
I could, can you repeat the question?
Sure, you could send things from the Flow Sports Google Drive on your personal Gmail as well, couldn't you?
I don't think that's true. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't know if you can access one Gmail account through another Gmail account, and further unclear if you can send documents from one G Suite using another email. I don't know if that's true.
Okay, well, we'll clear that up later. But right now, we know the only way that you say this is on your personal Google Drive and not on your work Google Drive is because it came from your Gmail, right?
Yeah,
Asked and answered. Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
And you, regardless of where you kept it, your job included creating these depth charts, right?
My job, I don't know if it was part of my job.
Well, you did it during the workday, didn't you?
I don't know. I don't know when.
You kept some of these on, Flow Sports paid to fly you around and send you to these events, right?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Now, you have this depth chart and you send it from your personal Gmail account. And now everything that you ever sent from your personal Gmail account, you still have, right? In other words, I'll ask a better question if that's confusing. You have not gone through and returned any Flow Sports documents from your personal Google account, have you?
I don't have any Flow Sports documents on my personal account.
Now, the document that we're looking at right here is 4/25/19, and it is a depth chart about Penn State University, including targets, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And thank you. And have you even gone back to check your personal Google account to see what all documents you have from when you worked at Flow Sports?
Your Honor, objection relevance.
Sustained.
Well, Judge, if I
It's
may.
a discovery dispute, really? I mean, if you have some argument in connection with a motion to compel discovery, it's a little late now. Otherwise, not sure what it goes to. It doesn't help me decide whether there's a breach of contract. I'm just not sure the context of why it would be relevant, unless you're going to ask him to provide additional discovery.
No, Judge, there's actually in the contract a return of documents requirement.
Yes.
It's a breach of contract.
And so you can ask him if he did that or not, right?
Well, if you didn't look for it, you couldn't return it.
You ask, how about we just start with question number 1? Did you return all the documents or not?
Let me ask a question. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Saylor, did you return any documents to Flow Sports?
All the documents, any documents that I may have had, you guys have. Flow
I'm
Sports.
sorry, you still have this document, don't you? You still have this.
No.
What'd you do with it?
Well, I don't know if I have this specific one.
You
And-
produced the test.
That was on Flow Sports system. A, I do not have, and B, you have.
Mr. Weisrock, can you scroll down to the bottom so we can see the production?
Your Honor, I'd object to relevance of this whole line of questioning. It is a discovery issue.
It's a breach of
Ms.
contract.
Burgess suggests that there is some connection to the breach of contract claim. I'm not seeing it at the moment because we seem to be deep into the woods. He has told you that he doesn't have any documents on his personal Gmail account that belong to Flow Sports. He has told you that he's returned all Flow Sports documents to Flow Sports. So if you want to further inquire about that, you certainly can, but I think you need a specific question posed to him that he can answer beyond what he has already told us. And if you can do that, you certainly may at this time.
And Judge, I won't argue with that right now, but I disagree with that characterization, but
Well, it's okay. You don't have to agree with it. Let me just invite you to ask whatever question you want to ask that you have not already asked and has already been answered. How about that? That way, we don't have to quibble. You can ask him whatever you want as long as you haven't already asked him and he hasn't already answered it.
Mr. Saylor, you agreed to return Flow Sports documents when you left, right?
Objection asked and answered.
That doesn't qualify as a fresh question that wasn't already asked and answered, so I'll sustain that objection. He has told you the answer to that question, Ms. Burgess. Let me also tell you why this is confusing for me, okay? Your questions, in some respects, seem to suggest that if I use, for example, my county computer to access on the internet my personal email address, that somehow those things are the same thing. And I don't know that that's what you're asking him, but that's why it's confusing to me, because that seems to be what you're asking him to confess. And so I don't understand that exactly.
Maybe if
And
I
so I'm
explain-
happy for you to try to explore your breach of contract claim. I really am. But I think a thoughtful question that he can answer, if he knows the answer, would be helpful. And the suggestion that it happens in one way that seems, he's already told you and now I've told you, seems odd and confusing, is not the way to get there. So let's do this. Let's go and talk about 289. Let's pick up on this issue of the documents over after lunch, because as you know, I have to break at 12:30. So let's go back and talk about 289, and then let's get some clarity around this issue of the breach of contract claim as it relates to these documents. But I'm not going to have a discovery dispute. You can certainly explore your claim that he violated something in some way, but I'm confused, frankly, about
If
the
I
line
could-
of questioning.
I think
So-
part of it,
That's all right. Let's just think about it over the lunch break, and when we come back, you can pursue it.
Oh, I see
I'm
what you're
gonna
saying.
talk
You're gonna
now about 289 because I've now pulled it up on my box folder. The objection to it was relevant, so I need to know why it's being offered and what the relevance of the document is.
certainly, Judge, this is Mr. Saylor's Facebook page, and it's long just because Facebook pages have a lot of parts. But this is his Facebook page for Matt Scouts, which is the channel that he created to be just like Flow Sports. And they use
Description.
Watson.
She's not testifying, so her description of it is not evidence, so there's no need to object to it. It's not evidence.
And-
What she says about it, how she describes it, just not evidence. I think we can all agree on that. Why is it relevant?
This is where Rockfin pays for ads that target our customers, that target Flows Wrestling, and they advertise Matt Scouts in direct competition. And this is a breach
So
of contract.
hold on, to cut it short, what you're telling me is that this is Mr. Saylor's Facebook account. I don't think he disagrees with that. I think he agreed that that this is his Facebook. These pages are from his Facebook account. And your argument is that it is relevant because it in some way demonstrates that Matt Scouts and Mr. Saylor are in competition with Flow Sports. Fair enough?
That plus Rockfin also uses this page to advertise him. They pay for advertising on this page.
And so it somehow speaks to your claims against Rockfin for tortious interference?
That's right, because they're continuously publishing him, promoting him, paying. They use
I'm just
ads to
asking
target
about the
him.
relevant part of it. I'm not asking
Right.
you to make a closing argument. I'm really just asking if that's what you're telling me is why you think it's relevant.
Exactly, it's the breach of contract and tortious interference.
All right. In fairness to those that are opposed to the entry of the document, you can tell me why you don't think these documents, this exhibit contains documents that are relevant to the dispute.
Your Honor, if there's any specific advertising that they think is relevant to the issue of competition in that 85 pages, they can offer that. But I think we went through exhaustive production, and to offer into public record 85 pages of this is not relevant to the case.
All right, Ms. Klingsizen, I think you joined in the objection. You may also offer your argument if you wish.
Sure. I would just add to Mr. Soltero's that we have evidence in this case of Rockman's advertising Matt Scouts, and 85 pages of his Facebook page seems over-inclusive and irrelevant.
All right, I'm going to overrule the objection. Plaintiff's Exhibit 289 is admitted. All right, that'll take us to our lunch break. We'll be in recess for 1 hour. I'll see you back at 1:30. Mr. McCabe, I'm going to leave this meeting and sign back on at 1:30 because I need this for my 12:30 meeting. So I'll see you all back at 1:30. We'll be in recess until then.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.